Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Republic of Palau Founding Digital Resident Inauguration event. In a moment, we'll be joined by the President of the Republic of Palau, His Excellency Surangel S. Jr., and the esteemed Team Draper. I'm delighted to see what we have now more than 450 attendees watching in Zoom webinar. And due to constraints, we're only able to give out a limited number of invites to the direct webinar link. To those watching our live stream on Twitch, YouTube, Douyu, and other platforms, we're so glad to have you all as well. We're also delighted to be joined by the Honorary Sabino Anastasio, Speaker of the House of Delegates, Honorable Hawkins Balls, President of the Senate, and members of the press from Bloomberg, Cointelegraph, among others, and prominent blockchain and technology leaders. Now, without further information, I am honored to welcome to the stage Palau's Minister of Finance and also Director of Digital Residency Office, the Honorable Caleb Udui Jr. Welcome.
Thank you, Bill, for that opening. I'd like to start by saying on the way to meeting today, I was greeted with some light rain. And to us islanders, it is a blessing to receive a light shower, a good omen for us. Also, I saw some light on the horizon behind the clouds. And I also thought that was another good omen for us for our ceremony today. Well, good morning from the Republic of Palau, and good afternoon to you in California and elsewhere in the United States. On behalf of the Digital Residency Office under the Ministry of Finance, Republic of Palau, and our partner Cryptic Labs, I'd like to welcome you to this launching ceremony, recognizing our first digital resident to the program. I'd also like to start by recognizing the people, as Bill has mentioned, to this occasion today. Again, His Excellency Surangel S. Jr., President of the Republic of Palau, my fellow cabinet members who are sitting in an adjacent room listening in, the Honorable Senator Hawkins Balls, President of our Senate, the Honorable Delegate Sabino Anastasio, Speaker of the House of Delegates, our honored guest and new friend, Mr. Tim Draper, and those listening in remotely, the representative of the media, virtually, and those that are present in Palau today with us in the other room. Thank you for joining us for today's ceremony. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to today's event. It is fitting that the ceremony is being conducted virtually, as our program is digital in nature. It is unfortunate that the pandemic has disrupted our lives in this way, but we are fortunate that technology is able to assist us to address the new challenges that we face. This opportunity is made possible by communication technology offered via submarine fiber cable optic connectivity to Palau. Today is the culmination of efforts that began with support from Palau's partners to make high-speed internet a reality for our small country. We are indebted to our friends from the United States, Japan, the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, and countless others for their continued support of our development and who will help us daily to face challenges such as climate change, rising sea levels, ever-increasing energy prices that are eating away at our available income, not to mention the pandemic. Today also recognizes opportunities available to our small country that are different from tourism, that our economy has been so reliant upon, and that has been devastated by the pandemic. The first part of this journey began last year for the Republic with a series of meetings with our present partner, Cryptic Labs, and their many consultants and advisors. We are excited to work with the US company and US investors. Locally, the Palau Congress worked with the executive branch to finalize legislation before the end of 2021 in record time for this initiative to move forward. We are appreciative of our Congress's willingness to support President Whip's vision for a new fintech industry to assist our country to grow with the new normal. Numerous meetings were held to discuss this initiative. The legislature's insistence on applying due diligence to the process is also important to note. Digital residency. This may be a small step for other countries, but let me assure you it is a big one for Palau. We are hopeful for the benefits our program will bring to our residents, and will work hard to address upcoming challenges to make this program what it can be. We also hope to soon bring other products to market to improve opportunities for the country, for business, our guests, and our people. Please stay tuned for news on these initiatives. This is a new year for our country and the region, and we will make the effort and continue to face our challenges with courage and bravery. We will not go it alone. We welcome all the new digital residents to our country through this program, and hopefully in the near future in person. Thank you again for gracing us with your presence today. Brill?
Yeah, I'm over here. So on the agenda next, we will respect the national anthem of Palau. So our host, please go ahead and play the music. Give us a second. Yeah, Eli, go ahead. you all very much. Please take a seat. And next, I would like to introduce His Excellency, President Surangel S. Jr. for the Digital Residency consecration speech. Welcome.
Good morning from Palau. You know, Minister was speaking about rain and the blessings it brings, and I think one of the things that Palau is very blessed to have is a lot of rainbows. And we always say that we're at rainbow's end. Usually at the end of the rainbow, we find a pot of gold. So I hope that today's ceremony is a beginning of a new journey. And we're just so thankful that we're joined here today by the President of the Senate, Senator Ballas, and Speaker Anastasio from the House. It really is through their leadership that we've been able to get this legislation passed in record time. And also joining us today are the members of the Cabinet, Vice President Singabao, and of course our Minister of Finance, and also members of the media. Now we're just grateful that everybody is here to join us on this very special day. Today marks a momentous occasion, and I am beyond excited to have you, Mr. Tim Draper, join me in recognizing the making of history. Today's digital resident inauguration represents an important milestone in the history of Palau and the people of the world, and especially you, Tim. The Palau Digital Residency Program started with just a single vision, a vision that one day citizens from around the world will be able to access economic opportunities equally. A vision that one day we could democratize access to fundamental business activities for people around the world. A vision that one day we can empower global citizens from anywhere across the globe to connect and access the digital world regardless of geographic boundaries. Today's inauguration makes that vision a reality. And for the first time in history, anyone in the world can participate in fundamental business and economic activities through Palau's digital residency program, so that equity and opportunity are available not just to some, but to all of us. Our culture spans more than 4,000 years. And when the islands were first settled by seafarers in the Pacific Ocean, Tim, we invite you to become part of this rich history, along with all the future residents that will soon be joining us. Like those first settlers of Palau, who fearlessly braved the roaring seas in search of better opportunities more than 4 millennia ago, your vision, curiosity, and courage have brought you to the cusp of a transformative change for our world. For those first settlers, Palau became not just a new island of opportunities and resources, but also home for countless generations of families who still reside in Palau today. As a founding digital resident, we hope that you enjoy this connection to a unique Pacific island and its trailblazing history. It may come as a surprise to many, but archaeologists believe that the world's first blockchain actually originated in Palau in the form of the Yapese stone money Rai. For centuries, the Yapese would mine massive stones from Palau's rock islands, the stones measuring up to 8 feet in diameter, and then bring them back on their canoes to their islands. The stones would be placed in the village center and were highly valued. But because these massive stones were too difficult to be moved, their ownership would be established by oral tradition. And any change in the ownership would append a new segment to the stone's oral tradition. Just like today's digital blockchains, the history of the stone was never modified. New ownership simply meant a new block was added to the end. As a nation with a rich and dynamic history, it is truly fitting that Palau, the birthplace of the blockchain, can now be the new digital home for anyone. And we welcome you all to join us. While today's inauguration marks the realization of that first vision and the culmination of endless efforts and innovation of the team and broader community, it is truly just the beginning. Today, more than 40% of the world's population is still unable to access fundamental economic and business activities available to the rest of the world. Digital residency will change that, allowing equal access to economic opportunities for individuals and communities across the world. Digital residency and sovereign-backed blockchain native identity is just the first step, an inflection point, and a gateway to new innovation. The next generation of digital technology is already becoming a reality as we continue to build on core components fundamental to digital life and business, such as digital banking, virtual private networks, virtual carriers, exchanges, marketplaces, and more, building the foundational infrastructure for digital existence. And as more and more digital residents join us, we are certain that they will bring ideas, innovations, and resources to join us in building the future that works for everyone. Already, we've seen more than 300,000 people sign up for the digital residency waiting list. And this is entirely in just 1 month. Truth be told, a world of 7 billion digital residents is only just a few years away. Tim, we welcome you as the founding digital resident of Palau and look forward to the history that we and the rest of the global community will shape for our future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Whips. We really appreciate it. So let me right now introduce the stage the esteemed Timothy Draper for the digital residency inauguration speech. Welcome.
Thank you so much. This is an amazing honor, and thank you, President Whips, and for the entire government of Palau for being so visionary to see the future, this future that we can all appreciate and we can all be a part of. And I am incredibly honored to be the first of what we hope will be 7 or 8 billion virtual residents of Palau. This is, it was interesting as I was listening to the national anthem and looking at your wonderful flag of the sun in the sky, a tear came out of my eye and I was thinking, why is this so emotional? And I thought, we are really embarking on something extraordinary here. It is an opportunity to completely transform the world and allow borders to be less and less relevant, and for people everywhere to be able to participate in this world, in this free world, in this free world economy. And I thought, wow, this is absolutely a major event. And coming from a small country of a small number of people can actually impact that many people. And I've noticed that the innovations are now coming from the small countries. Macau got very excited about Bitcoin, and they started to become a center for Bitcoin. Switzerland also got very interested in blockchain. Recently, El Salvador made Bitcoin a national currency. And these innovations are happening from the small companies. and countries. And I thought about how venture capital works. We look and we see the world as it is, and then we invest in entrepreneurs who start with very small businesses and impact very large industries. And I feel that that same thing is happening. The small countries are finding that this is a great moment for innovation. This is an opportunity for the small countries to have an anthropological leap in the world. And we think that that anthropological leap is going to create a more decentralized, free, and open world where any of us can move very freely throughout the world. Any of us can do business from wherever we are. And any of us can say whatever we want and speak our minds and communicate with anyone around the world. And that is a major outcome. Now, why have I mentioned freedom 3 or 4 times already? Well, my dad fought in Korea. And after the Korean War, there was a line drawn between North and South Korea. And that line was demilitarized zone. And no one was allowed to cross it. So the North Koreans stayed in the north and the South Koreans stayed in the south. Well, the North Koreans were a Marxist socialist system, government controlled, top-down system where the government basically told everybody what they could do and what they couldn't do and what kind of job they could have and how much food they were allowed to eat and all of that. And the South Koreans created an open system where they could trade with the world, where they could communicate with anyone, where they had free speech, where they had a democracy where anyone could be the president. And what's happened? Well, over that 70-year period between when the war ended and now, the average South Korean now makes 460 times what the average North Korean makes. And that's when adjusted for purchasing power. And the average South Korean is now 4 inches taller than the average North Korean. And that's the beginning of just proving that freedom works. And having an open system around the world works. So a small country like Palau can have an enormous impact around the world. By creating more freedom around the world, that can make it so that we can do business and operate globally and without restrictions on supply chain, without restrictions around the world for freedom to speak, to act, to operate. And that is something that really attached me to Palau even before I knew about what you were doing. And I didn't know how we were connected. I knew there was some connection, but I didn't know how we were connected. And now that you've mentioned a rainbow, the day that my mother died, she left us with a rainbow, and she pops around with a rainbow whenever there's a significant event, I've noticed. And right here and now, I think you had a rainbow. My mother is saying this is a significant event. And I feel that we can have a new world. I mean, what's happening now in the world, let me take you back to the internet. The internet opened up the world. Suddenly with our participation in Hotmail made it so that we could all communicate around the world. And then Skype made it so that we could all communicate around the world through voice and video. And now Zoom's done even more than that. And now, so the internet has transformed some of the biggest, greatest industries in the world: media, communications, information, gaming, entertainment, hotels, cars. all of those industries have been completely transformed by the internet. The other thing that happened was geographic borders became less relevant. And all of us started to realize that the people around the world were good people, and we were able to trade with them, and we learned things from each other. And each of us had some difference and some beauty to it that brought more to the rest of us. Well, then Bitcoin came along. Suddenly we had a currency that was decentralized, open, transparent, and global, and anyone could use it. And it was completely trusted and trustworthy. And when that happened, I thought, wow, this is fantastic. The world has just opened up. Those geographic borders will dissolve. And but what I wasn't anticipating is that some countries would be paranoid to lose their control over their currency because we're now in a world that's completely open. And so there's been this pullback in nationalism and trade wars and that kind of thing. And I think that's a speed bump on our way to progress. And I think that that nationalism is going to sit there for a period of time, but those people who are acting under paranoia and control are missing the whole point. The whole point is that the world just became richer. The world just became more liquid, more transparent, and more trustworthy. And now I'm going to go to another country that was the poorest country in the world, one of the poorest countries in the world, and it was because there was no trust in that country, Singapore. And then all of a sudden, Lee Kuan Yew came in there and he built trust, one brick at a time, into his country. And 70 years later, Singapore is possibly the most trusted and trustworthy country in the world. And they're also one of the richest. So they've gone from the poorest to richest on trust. Well, that trustworthiness is so significant that now we have a trustworthy currency that can run all around the world. And that gives enormous opportunities for governments because they're not at the mercy of the renminbi or the US dollar or the swings of some political force one way or another, or inflation or whatever. They're tied to software. That software can be a democratic software. It can be, we'll be able to experiment with a lot of different kinds of currencies, but let's just start with Bitcoin. There are only 21 million of them. They're not going to be diluted. You do not lose when some government comes up and decides they want to print more of whatever their currency is. So suddenly we have a currency. Well, here's the other thing that's happening. You, as a new country, or a new digital country, can now start thinking about insurance. What is a government but a lot of insurance for people around the world? Well, right now, when an insurance company operates, it's you pay your premium, you pay your premium, you pay your premium, and then when something happens, you have a claim, and then you fight your claim, and then eventually you get your paid claim. Well, suddenly we now have a world where we could have an insurance company that could drop Bitcoin in your bank account before you knew you were going to have a heart attack, or before you knew your house burned down. That money could be dropped into your Bitcoin wallet before anything had happened. Well, all of a sudden that creates an insurance company that is almost frictionless. So what does that do? Well, that gives a country like Palau the opportunity to compete with much larger countries in insurance. So suddenly they're, whether it's your pension or your medical insurance or your healthcare insurance, your workman's comp insurance, your unemployment insurance, whatever it is, you can actually provide a better service for less. And it makes it so that countries have the ability, smaller countries have the ability to compete head to head or even more effectively than the big countries in providing services to people. And so I've always had in my head this concept that government service should be a competitive field. It just like the fields of smartphones and computers and cars and whatever else, where we as consumers get better and better service as these groups compete. And I believe that governments now have the ability to better compete and provide better service. And we as citizens of this world and virtual residents of Palau now are going to be able to participate and get better service from our governments. And that is really exciting. And as the world moves from the IRL, the physical world, to more and more in the virtual world, that governance in the virtual world will be competitive. And those countries that are the most innovative, like Palau, are going to be the big winners over the next 20 or 30 years. So I am incredibly honored and thrilled to be your first virtual resident. And I was the third virtual resident of Estonia. They have not taken the next steps to provide more services to their virtual residents for money. And I believe that this virtual residency can potentially provide more and more services, and more people will then jump on board. And I am so excited about it, and I hope eventually that we'll get a chance to get together, Mr. President, and have a chance to sort of brainstorm on what those services might be that can attract more and more people to this virtual residency program. So I am so excited. I think this is going to be a really critical moment in the history of the world. And it's amazing what a small country with a really strong leadership can do for the world. So I am just so honored. And I honestly did have a tear coming to my eye being a part of this. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this great event. And let's hope that we can take it from here. And this is the startup of a government that will transform the earth. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tim. Just listening to you is inspiring, and that's really the beginning of what we want to attract is people like yourself. And I hope, because you're the #1 resident in Palau, that you're focused on coming up with those great ideas that we can build together to help all the new residents of Palau tap into those opportunities. We have a saying in the Pacific Islands that the ocean is what connects us. And our flag, that blue represents the ocean, and the yellow.
Oh, I thought it was the sky.
Yeah, well, it can be both.
What is the yellow? That's the sun.
Yellow is actually the moon. And so it symbolizes, for a Palau, when there's a full moon, that's when is the beginning of life. The turtles give birth. There's the high tides. It brings in the nutrients, prosperity, and it's supposed to represent Palau on this big open ocean. And it really is. It's now the digital world that connects us all together. And it's inspiring to listen to you and being able to come up with those ideas, because that's what we need. We need ideas. It's ideas that what builds a better future, and it's bringing those people, those minds together that can really transform this new world and make us all better. I mean, it's a win-win. And I'm just so delighted you are our first resident. So thank you again.
So great. I do have a couple of quick ones I can lay on you if you want to kind of start thinking. There was an African startup that came to me and said, I believe we can offer free diagnostics to every African citizen just by selling their data to the drug companies. And so that's the kind of thing you could all of a sudden start providing healthcare for almost nothing to your residents in exchange for data. Data would be very valuable. Another one is the idea of a universal earned income, not universal. I don't like the idea of a government giving anything out. Then it's suddenly you create a culture of need, and then everybody's poor. But earned income can be a token that just keeps coming, and you earn that token by giving data. And that data can be valuable to a variety of different companies around the world. So there are two ways that you can kind of jump ahead of the Estonians or whoever else wants to. I know I talked to the people in Kazakhstan, they wanted to do a virtual citizen program too. But I think there's been turnover there, so I think they've dropped it. I think that there's kind of an interesting thing there that could start with nothing, and maybe it's a token that's not valuable at all, but over time it becomes something that people trade for goods and services. So there are two, and maybe there are more, and I would love to continue to keep this dialogue open.
Well, we look forward to seeing you soon, and welcome you to come and visit us in Palau.
Love to do.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that opportunity to really sit down and talk about these great ideas and bringing people. Hopefully you attract more digital residents that have these innovative ideas that we can build on. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Draper and the President. So do you have another? Yeah, I see Tim was trying to. Do you have another? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I look forward to it. And after this, I know this has been recorded. If you'll send the recording to me, I'll tweet it out. I have 200,000 followers.
Awesome. Yeah. So next it's time for the digital resident ID card and also the gift giving ceremony. So this will be the first sovereignty-backed NFT. So if I would invite our host to share the screen and show. Yeah, this is the gift from the president.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So if you see the background, it has the Palau's signature rock islands.
Just to give you a background, Tim, those rock islands is where they mine the stone money. They would go in and they look for where it's kind of like a crystallized formation, and then they would carve them out and with clam shells. And it took a long time, and lives are lost, and the value of that stone money came from how many lives are lost or how many people it took to make that. So sometimes they're very small, they may only be this big, but their value may be greater than the bigger ones because it depends on what went into it to find it, to get it, and to bring it to the out. And they were transported in canoes. I mean, it's an amazing story. They had these holes in the middle of them. That's how they carried them. Put a log through it and try to move them, and big disc like wheels. So we want to share a little bit of that. And then on this other side of the coin, you'll see that it looks like a plus sign. That's our Palau symbol for money. And we have it on our building. So Palau has a lot of different symbols that we use. And that's our symbol for money. Palau also has two different types of money that we use. One is we have beads, and the other one is turtle shells. So yes, we'd love to share those with you when you come and visit us.
I think that's great. Wow, turtle shells should be
So this is our goal is a pendant to symbolize how important you are in our first resident, and thank you for helping us launch this and help people around the world understand the value and where we can go with this. Thank you.
Yeah, so if after the event, Tim, if you can send me your wallet address, and then the president will send this NFT, right to your wallet. And then next, let's open up the media conference. So first, let me invite Cambis Casole from Palau Media. So welcome to the stage. Casole, go ahead.
It's on mute.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Draper. Congratulations on your as the first Palau digital resident, and also to Cryptic Labs CEO Real One. I was told that I will have only one question, so I'm going to direct my question to Mr. Wang. So there is a.
My pleasure.
Okay, so there is a reported 300,000 people on the waiting list. So the question is, do you have any indication on how much of that number will actually proceed to apply for the digital residency? And since we have Mr. Draper as the founding resident now, does this mean that the digital residency program is now open to the rest of the world to be able to be issued with a digital residency?
Absolutely, yeah. So our first digital resident will be Tim Draper. So we will do like the manual signups, for him. If he does, if you want to sign up yourself, we'll definitely allow to do that. But if you don't have time, we'll just process that offline for you. And then, back to your question about the 300,000. Yeah. So because we have this referral program, so they stand in a queue. And each person they refer, they can jump up like 100 spots in a queue. And to celebrate, Tim Draper's inauguration, we have increased that 10x to 1,000. So you can see the numbers just suddenly jump, from 150 to 300 just in 24 hours. And in terms of the conversion rate, it's up to the follow-up conversation between Tim himself and the president to see how much users we can add to this residency card, right? Digital banking, brokerage, exchange programs, data, open financial data, healthcare data. So that the more services and the more usefulness of the cards that we can add to the system, and we can see, and one day we'll see more than 1 million. So yeah, and what's the second question? I apologize.
So the second question is, since we have the first digital resident now.
Oh yeah. So the system is I got your question. Yeah. So the system is actually already up and running, and we're sending out the invitations to the sign up list, 10,000 people at a time, and they will have 72 hours to sign up. Otherwise, they will be put back to the queue. So we'll send them individual emails at 9 p.m. today, so 4 p.m. from now. So once they get their, each person will get their unique invitation code, because that way we can track how many people they have referred, and we'll also award them with RNS points. In the future that we can award them with, a similar NFT that the president gave to Tim. So just to award them by driving more digital resident to the platform.
Okay. So Mr. Draper, this one is for you. So as a founding digital resident of Palau, what does it mean to you to be the founding digital resident of Palau? I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Right. Yeah. So the founding. Yeah.
To
Tim, right? Sorry.
I think it is an incredibly great honor. And I think it's the beginning of something extraordinary that is going to spread around the world, and as innovative as this government is, I think they're going to be creating so many amazing features that I believe that government services are just going to get better and better and better as a result. I am incredibly honored. And if you want me to add something, it fires me up. It gets me so excited. I have access to so many new technologies and so many new startups and opportunities, and I can apply those. Now I can apply those technologies to the Palau government, and I can start bringing ideas to the government. I think that is going to be really important to me. And I think it's going to have a huge impact on the world.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and now let's invite Ting from Cointelegraph. And if Palau Media can, we can devote. Yeah, thank you. Ting, go ahead.
Hi, Tim. Hi, President. It's a really honor for me to be here at this event and asking questions. So my first question is to Tim. I've been going through a lot of your interviews in the past, and you've been very vocal about your position with Bitcoin and the innovations that inspired countries and businesses and technologies to flourish. And since Palau has this digital resident program, so my question to you is, what do you see the role of Bitcoin will change with these kind of initiatives from countries?
I think many countries, the most innovative countries, will lead, and they will start to make Bitcoin a national currency, use Bitcoin, allow people to operate their businesses completely in Bitcoin so that they can get their taxes paid in Bitcoin. I believe that that the retailers are going to be much more excited about accepting Bitcoin. In fact, there's something right behind me here. It's the first retailer that accepted Bitcoin. It was a Canadian Kentucky Fried Chicken. And so I keep that on my wall. I think the retailers are going to accept more Bitcoin because they save 2.5% to 4% every time somebody swipes a credit card. So they'll use OpenNote or some other service to accept Bitcoin. So I think that the most innovative countries are going to be the most accepting of Bitcoin. And when you can integrate your accounting system, the way the government accepts accounting, into a new currency like Bitcoin, a group called Cryptio does that. You can actually tax, and then you don't have to. God, the U.S. government was talking about bringing in 500,000 more IRS agents. You don't need any IRS agents because the taxes are already built in to the system. And I think that there are going to be so many incredible benefits from these countries who say, look, I see this as the future. I'm going to bring in, I'm going to make sure that it works for us, make sure that our tax system's set up right, and then we're going to be open. And so then the world's going to start saying, well, wait, why aren't I a Palau virtual resident? Because, and why don't I use the, what do you call it, the X corporation system? Why aren't I using that? Why am I going through some system that is antiquated? Why don't I go through the X corporation? And so if all the businesses start using the X corporation and start using Bitcoin, the system already works. I mean, I actually could see, Palau becoming one of the richest countries in the world just with a tiny little tax on a system, because everybody's going to want to use that system. I think we're all operating virtually. This is really interesting. California's got all these heavy regulation rules, and so for me to hire, and I live in California, for me to hire somebody from California costs me so much more than from anywhere else in the world. And it's because we're all working this way. We're all working virtually. So governments are going to have to compete for us. They're going to have to compete for the businesses of the world, for the startups, for the funding, for the money, for just the people of the world. And most of that competition is moving forward is going to be in the virtual world. So I actually think that first, Palau was very innovative to say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to create a digital government. And the next step will be, hey, Bitcoin's one of our national currencies, and we are taxing in Bitcoin. And all of a sudden, and all the accounting is going to be done. We don't need an accountant. We don't need an auditor. We don't need a bookkeeper. We don't need the lawyer. The whole system can be built on smart contracts. And suddenly you're the most efficient, effective government in the world. And people will run to your country.
Thank you, Tim, for your answer. So, which leads to my second question to the president of Palau. We've been seeing a lot. You're very innovative, and you're bringing this program to the freedom of financial freedom to the rest of the world. But we've also seen some countries are preventing this from happening by banning cryptocurrencies. But your idea is also to bring these opportunities for people to access the global markets. And so what's the challenge that you're facing interacting with countries that is preventing cryptocurrency become the mainstream? And what are the solutions that you're thinking of bringing, or what kind of collaborations that you think you can bring with countries are currently not crypto friendly?
Well, I guess when we talk about borderless systems, one ocean that connects us all, just bring all 7 billion residents into Palau, and then we don't have any border issues, and we're all trading and working together. So if anything, that'll be an incentive to bring everybody together and work on this platform. And that's the advantage of being a small country and having control over your own sovereignty. So yes, it is a challenge, but I think if we all are under the same system, then there's no barrier. So thank you.
Yeah, the president has a hard stop at 5, so we may have, like one or more questions. So next, let's invite OZ from Technology Magazine. Go ahead.
Hi, President Whips. Tim, it's a pleasure to be here. I had just a quick question for U.S.-based investors and entrepreneurs that are looking to diversify globally. What do you see the near-term opportunities, and what do you see the longer-term opportunities? Just basically opening the doors to Palau.
So I think long-term, I think we are moving toward a freer, more open world. And so the opportunity there is really to build wealth for the entire world, to have a much more wealthy world where the liquidity is so strong around the world, and the friction between business people is minimized, that long term, I think we're going to see a very healthy, wealthy world, and it really won't matter which country you come from. You're still going to be able to operate very freely in that world. And think of the amazing creativity that 7 billion or 8 billion people can provide, given the freedom to operate anywhere around the world. That's That's the big long-term opportunity. Short-term, as an investor, I actually think that any opportunity that starts bringing a Bitcoin environment into a new country will then, if Palau and El Salvador and Macau and others all start to recognize it, then it spreads from the small countries to the bigger countries. And I think that those services will spread at least through the countries that are open to it. And I think there was the earlier question to the president was about what happens to those countries that try to lock it down and keep their old way of doing things. I think they do it at their own peril. I think it's like if the U.S. had said, "Oh, we're not gonna allow the internet in here," and all of a sudden the U.S. is living in the 1930s, and the rest of the world has advanced through this 21st century. I think the same thing's going to happen here. Those countries are the best at embracing this new technology, innovating with it, bringing it in, and making it a part of them are going to be the big winners. And so the entrepreneurs that provide those services, that think of the world as a decentralized world that's open and transparent, global and frictionless, those entrepreneurs are going to be big winners. And how the various DAOs operate, I think that's going to be really exciting. We are about to see one of the most exciting times in the history of the world, and you're seeing some people resisting it and some embracing it, and the people who are resisting it are going to lose. And the ones embracing it are going to be the big winners over the next 40 years.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Josie. And next we have our last question from Bernard. Yeah, from Guardian. Yeah, go ahead.
Bernadette, I think you disappeared.
Yeah, she suddenly stopped. So if Bernard, you can come back, or our host, you can promote him. Promote her to the stage. Or if we have like another 3 journalists too, if any one of them want to,
Go ahead and
do that too. Okay. So what about Will Gaines? Oh, she's back. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
You're muted, Bernadette.
Yeah. So if you can unmute, or our host can unmute her for, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still muted.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. So I can see that there have been thousands of applicants, or maybe in waiting list. So how can Palau or its partner can diligently screen those applicants? And this is a new thing for Palau, and there are many nefarious people out there in the internet. So how are you going to diligently screen the applicants?
Okay. Is that a question for me? Yeah. So good. So we will do first, we will compare the document that they submit. So, like for the application process, the applicants will need to upload their original ID. Say, for example, like, their US passport, or like, like an ID of, your driver's license or something. And then, we need to open the camera and we compare your face with AI algorithms to check if that's the real person on the original ID. So until at that point, we can confirm, identity. So after that, we will use your name to do like, a very strict sanction list check, from all the governments in the world, from US, from China, from anywhere. If you're on that sanction list, then your application will be banned. And then we use like multiple lists to make sure that this is, this ID system is basically the most robust. Is we're using the banking standard. No other countries is doing this. This is basically ready for the banks, right away. So that's why we're, making preparation for the next step, according to Mr. Draper and also the president, that we want to add more utilities to this ID. So, we're preparing ahead of time. Okay, so President, can you fill in another question from Will, or do we have to stop here?
No, we can continue because we've had local media also ask questions, and they're the ones waiting for 10 o'clock, but it's okay. Continue. We'll
Okay,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll go ahead, and then next we'll promote the local medias.
You're muted, Will. There you go.
So I just want to say first and foremost, while I have the opportunity to thank you, Mr. President, I just want to really say a deep, heartfelt thank you from here. I'm in Los Angeles, California as well, Mr. Draper. And I just wanted to say, I read your article where you urged the world to make 2022 the year of accountability, and in your words, reciprocity and significant investments in adequate safeguards that ensure basic human rights for the world. And I just want to thank you for those words. They moved me, and I stand with you and the people of Palau and the Commission of Small Island States in the reality that you're trying to build with this digital residency. So I just wanted to start on the point of gratitude and just ask you very quickly if you are familiar with kind of the technology behind DAOs and sort of this decentralized governance. And I know your time is limited, but I just if you weren't, I wanted to put you in touch with some assistance in the world of DAOs to help assist in your endeavor. But are you familiar with that technology at all?
No, I have to say that I'm not, and it's the first time I've heard of the term DAOs, but I'm very much interested in trying to learn from that and see how we can apply that to Palau. Yeah.
I love that. I would love to, whoever the best point of contact is to talk about that. I think there are a lot of DAOs that would assist in your endeavor. And Mr. Draper, I'd love to ask you a similar question as well, but I know the time is limited. So I'll just thank you for the work that you do as well. And being the first digital resident of the country of Palau, it's a true honor to be on this stage with you all. So thank you for your time.
Terrific. Yeah, I'm very familiar with DAOs, the decentralized autonomous units, and what they really do. Just a quick, simple is they allow all the members to have, in effect, a liquid democracy, and it can be managed in a number of different ways. And so there are all sorts of interesting government experiments that are happening, governance experiments that are happening within various DAOs. And so it would be a fun thing for you, Mr. President, to look into, because some of those experiments have become very innovative.
I would put one in your mind, Mr. President, called Proof of Good DAO. They're a coalition, I think, that could really assist in this, not in any way taking from the people of Palau, but in adding to this coalition. But I won't take any more time. I know it's limited. Thank you all so much. Truly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. So next, let's bring up Priyanka from Stanford. Yeah, go ahead and unmute.
Hello, hi. I am not able to turn on my video. Great. Hi, I am Priyanka. I'm a grad student here at Stanford. I research in computational neuroscience, and I work with my 14-year-old sister minting NFTs and stuff. So this question is more from a creator standpoint, sort of a thing. And the question is directed to both the president and to Mr. Draper. I've read that one of the major sources of economy for the country has been from tourism. So I was just curious to see, have you guys considered building, say, a metaverse or some sort of an incentive for tourists to visit the country, like, I don't know, visit to earn model or something like that? Or yeah, this is completely from a non-financial, but from a tourism and a creative artistic standpoint, like NFT souvenirs for people who visit, or something along those lines.
I think that's a great concept, and you know, when I first saw that 300,000 people had already pre-registered for the residency, I said, what a great opportunity to promote Palau as a tourism destination too. And you know, there is a link there, and yes, we definitely want to build on that. So
I think it could be a great virtual tour too. You could get all sorts of virtual tours of Palau, and that would attract people to come in real life too. But maybe you do virtual tourism. That's kind of a new concept.
yeah.
Yeah, having a Palau metaverse where people can visit and they like earn tokens for visiting and like promoting the culture. And yeah, I guess I'm a student in a visa status in the United States, so I have a huge appreciation for what you guys are doing with digital residency and stuff. So thank you so much for what's happening, and thank you for your time. It was an honor talking to you today. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, now let's invite Daniel. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, well, thank you so much. I didn't think we would be able to do this, but I mean, it was a great presentation, and thank you so much for you know, doing this program. My question is really about, you know, in the future, as network states will be created, is that something you're open to also not just like work with other countries, but also with network states, you know, basically countries that are built within the metaverse? Is that something that you would consider in the future to, like, you know, also work with kind of like virtual countries, or, you know, countries that live in the metaverse, and sort of have different principles? They don't necessarily compete with nation states, but they could also, you know, be sort of advantageous to Palau.
Well, this is where I think it's great to have digital residents like Tim to help us in navigating this new field. And you know, in Palau, we're open to new ideas and new innovations, and I think that's really what it's about, and charting the path forward. And it's bringing people together with ideas to spur innovation. So yeah, we're open.
Yeah, because I think what your
really
program
cool idea. That is a really cool idea, that where Palau could be a platform for a variety of different digital governments. And it's a little like the idea of the DAOs. So people could try different things, and some would be very attractive to people and some would not. And the attractive ones would grow and the bad ones would fail. And you could then take on the best of them in Palau. Very fun idea. And I missed the beginning. Daniel, are you a journalist, or are you?
No, so yeah, I'm actually working on a brain-computer network to create virtual dreams. So the idea is to build technology that would enable people to experience alternative reality, to allow people sort of to, you know, break their infinite loops. But, you know, I mean, now, like, you know, last year, like, the metaverse, even though it's like this concept that has been around for a long time, it's like something that is now becoming more prevalent, you know, with like Facebook renaming itself and a lot of people investing in that kind of like trend. And so I think the future is, you know, we're going to build the metaverse, we're going to build the matrix. And since we have now cryptographic tools, basically what that means in the future, I mean, already this program of Palau shows there's going to be more competition with nation states. And so historically, I think there hasn't been that much competition. And so I think now we'll be at the beginning stage of creating more competition. So it just makes sense that in the future, at some point, there will also be, you know, network states. Balaji talks about that as well. You know, communities, DAOs, you know, that don't necessarily compete with nation states, but that sort of like use different, you know, principles and parameters to build different kinds of communities, to create like this kind of borderless, different kind of future within, possibly within the metaverse, you know? I mean, because if we're actually building alternative reality, because everyone is now so preoccupied with building Web3 or, you know, Bitcoin, but we're also building like, you know, reality 2.0 with brain computer interfaces. So I think like it's great to see, Palau, create this program, because it's really the beginning of this. And I mean, we don't even know, we can't even imagine really like where this will go. Yeah.
Sorry, I think you're right. I think people are going to, like governments they used to compete physically. And now all of a sudden they're, some of the old guys are still saying, oh, we got to compete physically, but that just makes people leave your country and they'll go to another country, and you'll have, so the real competition is in providing good service, good government service, and that's a whole different environment. So very exciting.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So much, Daniel. Yeah. So before we wrap up, I have two final notes. So for members of the media, if you want a copy of today's video and also a press release, you can send your email to media@rns.id. And also, like, we're starting the application at 9 p.m. Pacific time today. So, if you guys are interested in applying to the digital residency program, just go to rns.id and we'll process, those in batches, in 10,000 batches, for the next couple of weeks. So, so thank you guys so much, Mr. President, Mr. Tim Draper. Look forward to onboard more like journeys, more services to the program. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you.
To see my internet speaker.